So I just watched Palm Springs, and it was pretty good. This was directed by Max Barbakow, and I believe this was his first film. It stars Andy Samberg alongside Christine Milioti as two guests of a wedding who get stuck in a time loop and fall in love with each other as they relive the same day over and over again. This one has been on my watch list for a while, but I just never got around to seeing it. Now that I've seen it, I can confidently say that I'm glad that I watched it. It's one of those disposable comedies that doesn't exactly give you much to think about once it's over. The premise is something that's been done before with Groundhog Day, Edge of Tomorrow, Happy Death Day, but it's never been done right in my opinion. The best portrayal of this idea to me was in the 2011 Jake Gyllenhaal movie Source Code. And I have to say that it was refreshing to see the premise be executed in a different way. Yeah, it's super repetitive and you've seen just about everything done before somewhere else, but there was something special and almost kind of meta about the writing and the pacing that kept me interested and chuckling pretty consistently. They never really used the editing to tell jokes in a way someone like Edgar Wright would, but the movie managed to move at such a brisk pace that it never allowed you to be bored.
Whoops.
Like I mentioned before, this is a first-time director, so I didn't really expect there to be anything special with the camera work or cinematography. And like I expected, it was pretty average and unspecial. There were a few shots that I found to be good as far as camera placement and the fact that the characters were in focus, but other times where the constant shot reverse shot made me notice pretty obvious flaws in the editing. For example, there's a scene early on in the movie where our two main characters are having a conversation outside of a window, and the girl is in the middle of a sentence, like we can clearly hear her talking, and then when the camera cuts to Andy Samberg looking at her mouth isn't moving at all, but we still hear her talking. It was so sloppy and distracting. It's 2020, dubbing should not be this difficult. I guess I'll talk about the performances and Andy Samberg is pretty bad in this one, but he's fine for what the movie is, I guess. He's come a long way from the dog shit he used to act in. Christine Milioti is probably the funniest part of this movie. She really kind of carries the whole thing for me. J.K. Simmons pops up here and there, and he's got some funny parts. That guy's great in just about everything he's in. When they introduced this character, I expected it to go in a certain direction, but I was pleasantly surprised when it took a more unconventional turn. And for a while there, I expected most of the movie to be unconventional. But of course, the second act rolls around and I was able to predict exactly where the movie was going. The ending was really stupid, and it was formulaic, and it almost made me forget how much I enjoyed the first half. I like the fact that there's two people we follow experiencing the time loop as opposed to just one. But this also created quite a bit of inconsistencies in the timing of certain events that drove me crazy the entire movie. I guess this could be considered spoilers, but I'm not spoiling the ending or anything major, so I wouldn't worry about it. But here's your warning nonetheless. It's important to remember that it's repeatedly explained in the movie that at the start of every new day, these two wake up in the same spot at the same time. The first time Sarah wakes up in the loop, she immediately walks out of her room to find Andy Samberg in the pool. This told me in my brain that he woke up before her and had his whole morning routine that we see over and over again. But later in the movie, he wakes up and already can't find her. This makes no fucking sense. They're in the same house and he clearly woke up before her earlier. Then how the hell can she already be gone by the time he wakes up? It's stupid. And so is the ending. I won't spoil that, but if you've seen it, then I'll put some out of context images on the screen, and just know I found it to be really pandering and really cliche and nowhere near self-aware enough to justify it. Had the third act been as entertaining as the first two, I might give this one more praise. Despite all of its flaws, I still found it to be funny and really entertaining. It's an original twist on an unoriginal premise, and I don't see myself rewatching it that often, but I will undoubtedly recommend it. I thought Palm Springs was a very solid movie, and I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.